Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap the return of Quintet 4. We are also going to recap BJJ Stars 11, the women's GP. We are also going to talk a little about EUG, the main event for that, and preview the ADCC European trials. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Good to have you back in person. Happy you're not sick this week. Audio was pretty good last week. It did sync, but
that's
happy to have you back.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a great thing. Fun weekend of events. BJJ Stars was a lot of fun. Some great super fights on that, and a women's GP. Always love talking about women's GP. We also had the return of Quintet, which was a little weirder than normal.
Yeah, there's some stuff going on.
It was broadcast on Flow. We'll get into that in a minute here. And then we got the ADCC trials coming up. So I'm excited for all of that.
That's the only thing on the calendar for this weekend.
Yeah, so. We have Nogi Pans in 2 weeks. We'll talk about that. When it gets closer, we don't have brackets or anything like that.
Yeah, and we have some we have some fight to win events.
Yeah, we have those as well.
Out, but, yeah.
So, big event. Do we have any news this week? It's been a pretty quiet week.
Well,
ADCC Chicago happened.
We have the ADCC news.
Oh, yes. That happened like an hour before the show. Okay. I'll went into it because I'm excited about it. ADCC news got announced today, September 11th, that for trials, you can now weigh in the day before.
Yes.
Now, usually what that means is like a 5 p.m. weigh-in. If it runs anything like the Opens typically allow you to weigh in.
Poland, it was like 8 to 10 p.m.
Really?
Because they announced the times for Poland's weigh-ins.
Oh, okay.
And they were super late, and I was like, holy shit, that's like late.
So again, it's not like a huge amount of time, but so the discussion has been for a long time. A lot of the guys that are on the level don't make a big cuts because trials for the men's weight classes is 11 pounds between. Oh yeah, it is late, isn't it?
Yeah, 8 to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Friday.
So you're getting, essentially with being able to weigh in early, you're getting
to be able to sleep comfortably.
You're
That's
getting
the truth.
12 hours.
Yeah.
Roughly, you're getting 8 to 12 hours, and you get to sleep in. You don't have to get up at. Most of the guys that are cutting a lot of weight are up at 3 and 4 a.m.
Well,
and
the thing is, you're not sleeping well because you're not.
Because you're dehydrated, and so
you're dehydrated. You're worried about what if you make weight or not. There's a lot of shit.
Especially with the tournaments getting bigger and bigger, and so Mo's kind of thought, the head organizer for ADCC for the World Championships, was I want to see the best quality of athlete, especially with the trials. Like that's other news. 77 is now full for North American trials. It's in October, so like a month away, more than a month away.
Yeah.
256 competitors for under 77 kilos.
I've been trying to see if I can tell who's who's registered so far, and I can't.
We only have Europeans this week, but I don't have a listing for the U.S. trials. Usually U.S. trials, we don't get those registrations.
No, but they had, I swear, like 2 or 3 days ago, you could go into their website and you could see the list of everybody who's registered. And now it's gone. It was there, but now it's gone. And it's sad because I'd like to know who's already there.
I always like seeing that too. So they're also going to do seeding for trials.
Okay.
Based on some open results. So we had open this weekend in Chicago. We have the European Championships, European, Middle East, and Africa qualifier for the men's, and also some of the women are able to compete in that event, but it is not a qualifier for the women. This is the first trials that we're going to have 3 weight classes. Again, we'll get to this in the second half of the show, but the big news is the early weigh-ins. And so I like that. A lot of the people that have very, very big weight cuts to get to the weight, they're very willing to do that for the World Championship, but especially if you have divisions of 256 where you're going to have 8 matches, if not, a pony match or something like that, or 7 matches. You have multiple matches, 4 matches a day.
Yeah, you might have some people not show up because that's the other problem that always happens.
Yeah, with such a big registration pool, but to have that many matches, like the World Championships, you're cutting the weight, but you only have 4 matches to win. Trials having 8, it's a different ballgame with needing, if you have to cut that much weight. So I appreciate trials only has the 1 weigh-in. World Championships you weigh in both days. Actually, you weigh in technically 3 days. You weigh in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. To make sure that you make the weight. But I do appreciate for the trials, like no one who wins trials is then going and not making weight.
That's true.
And if you do, there are replacements that are ready, that are on weight, willing to take your slot if you make that mistake.
And they have to make weight.
And those guys, I guarantee you in the arena, especially if it's 20,000 this year or 12,000 people this year, you will have a bunch of people on that level or just close to that level.
Oh, yeah.
They can make the weight. And I know we've heard for years guys talking about like, yeah, I'm on weight just in case there's a drop. Because it happened in China. Like it happened in China, they had to pull people in because there was some issues with visas and flights. It was in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Allegedly, there were some issues with.
Well, I know there's always the issues with visas
and
all
guys
that
not
kind
being
of
able to make it into the country. So, I think it's a great change. I think we'll get a much higher quality of athlete be able to make it to the show and be able to showcase their talents, especially if we're starting to get into these huge 2-day trials where you have. On the low end, the smaller divisions, you'll probably have 5 or 6 matches.
Yeah.
You know, I like being able to see the best quality athlete go out there and do their thing at the weight, especially with 11-pound differences. It's a good thing. And for the worlds, the rules for the worlds as of now aren't changing. It's still mandatory weigh-ins each day, and that's been discussed and that's been changed over the years. But I think ADCC is doing a good job moving forward. And
they have a little bit of time before they have to really worry about that.
Yeah. But I do like that.
Yeah.
That we're letting the guys cut more weight.
Yeah.
We were talking on the pre-show that with 77 filled, now with a 12-hour, I think honestly, if you were a tweener a month out between 66 and 77, that extra 8 hours you're probably going to get for U.S. trials.
My other question was, ones if you were an 88, but you were close enough to 77 that you could make it now cutting.
I just think if you were that close. If you would cut it.
You would cut it.
And it's like, it's now a buffer. I don't think that 8 hours that you're going to, because we were seeing guys, you're weighing in at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. or you're getting there to weigh in when the weigh-ins open up at 5 or 6 a.m. to go compete at 9 a.m. Like, you're not, that extra 6 hours isn't doing that much more for you.
Unless you're going and getting bagged IV
yeah,
bagged.
I mean, you can do
I'm
that
sure
now.
you're getting IV bagged.
And if you're cutting a lot of weight, you should do that.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that it's an 11-pound difference.
It's not a smart thing to do. I'm just saying it'll happen.
Well, my thought process was the extra 6 hours isn't going to be the deciding factor if you go 11 pounds difference where you were.
True.
Like that's
true.
You're either bulking or you're cutting all the way. It's a benefit. You're going to get a little better quality out of the athlete, but it's not going to be a weight class determiner for the people that are going to go and win trials.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
We saw how giant Varela was with same day weigh-ins at 77.
Yeah,
he's up at 88 now. Like he was enormous for 77 kilos on the last of the West Coast trials, and that guy is not going back to 77 with an extra 6 hours.
No.
Or back to 77. So that was the big news this week. Do we have any other big news?
I don't think so.
Chicago happened. We're not going to cover Chicago Open because there's a bunch of other really cool events to talk about this weekend, but some highlights are coming out. Looks like a great event, especially if that's being used in seeding now. I think it's phenomenal that we are seeing so many returning trials winners, like John Combs went and won his division at the ADCC Open. Yeah. We're seeing trials winners like John Hansen's done a bunch of them in the mix to get that ADCC experience to go into the trials in the next month.
Yeah,
so
I think it's great.
It's good. Miranda, that does it for the news section. Where do you want to start?
You said start at Quintet.
I mean, we should start at Quintet because I'm excited for Quintet. So, God, Quintet, it's in Japan, so it always happens at like 4 a.m. EST our time. And it was
actually 5 a.m. For whatever reason, Flo keeps on trying to give you Central Time, and it's not. It's Eastern Time. It started at 5 a.m.
Because Flo's based out of Austin.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I don't know. I tried to get up. It didn't happen.
No. So the past
I
two
caught the
Quintets,
very end, but that was it.
I've had spoiled to me because I've gone on my phone in the morning, opened up Instagram, and the first post, the last two Quintets have been a picture of the winning team, and I've gone, cool, it's spoiled for me. So this time I woke up in the morning, and I was like, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to look at anything. And I had my eyes down when I was opening up Flow so that I wouldn't accidentally see a spoiler. And I got to watch the event unspoiled for me.
I know. And I made a comment about what somebody looked like. And you were like, don't tell me.
In our team
I was
chat.
just saying, like, Nick Urad looked like an uncle. A Jersey uncle, that has like a gold chain that might like slap you if you get out of line.
He looked perturbed.
Like,
but
he
again,
had
that giant
he had
flight.
a look about him. I forgot about that. He hates the big long flights.
He hates the big long flight. That's one of the reasons he didn't sign with ONE FC was for the big flight. So I was so surprised that Quintet got him to fly over to Japan.
I wonder if they put him on, like, if they gave him, like, first class because
he's so big.
Yeah.
Who knows? Let's talk about the first round. So this was Quintet. We had the B Team Bulls, we had Team Sakuraba, we had Team 10th Planet, and we had Team Polaris. All great teams. The way Quintet works, if you don't know, is you have 4 teams of 5 grapplers that are all under 190 pounds total. So, if you have a guy that's 140, you can have a guy 140 pounds, you can have a guy that's, 240 pounds, and it evens out for your entire aggregate of your team has to be under, I think it's 950 pounds.
I'm looking right
now. But all the teams that came out were about 945, was about roughly what the teams weighed. It's probably a kilogram weight, but and then what you do is you field your lineup. And so this Quintet was a little different. I don't know if they've done it like this in the past, where they had a predetermined lineup, like of the way that the teams were going to come out. So this guy's going to come out first, followed by this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And then the other team fields their roster of 5 as well in that order. You bring your first guy out, the other team brings their first guy out.
Yeah.
If there's a draw, both grapplers on each team are eliminated, and you move to the next.
It's 948 pounds.
Okay, so most of the teams were about 944, 945, really close to that limit. If one person gets a sub, they eliminate the grappler on the other team, and the person that got the sub stays in, and the next member of the team comes on, and then your goal is to have, it's a team battle format, to have your teammate remaining, and that's how your team wins.
Does each team pick out the schedule, like, of who's going to go in what line?
I think so, because in previous quintets we haven't known, but in this quintet when they came out, they had a listing of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
And they said that Nicky Rod and Owen agreed to be the first match.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out exactly how that worked. Like,
there was a lot more. So this quintet, I'm not going to call it secrecy. The teams talked to each other and seemed to have more interaction with each other than any other quintet
There was a lot
we've
of
had
beef
before.
going on.
There was a lot of beef in a way that we haven't seen in quintet before. I'm not really sure what changed, but it'll kind of be a recurring theme as we talk about this quintet. Yeah. Unfortunately, there weren't a ton of submissions on a lot of the matchups that happened, but there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened.
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting kind of play between different people, and certain people that we wouldn't have thought had the issues that they were having. It was interesting. It was interesting to see the whole thing. And
this is also the first time it was on Flow.
Yes.
And I don't think that changes. I think all the production looked kind of the same as when it was on Fight Pass. But let's get into it.
Yeah.
So the first team we had was Team 10th Planet versus Team Sakuraba. Although Rita is on the B team now, is at B team now, he has historically been on Team Reebok or Team Sakuraba, so he returned to field that slot on that team. And then at the end, he was actually given it. They put Nicky Rod's jersey on him because Nicky Rod took his shirt off.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. So, he was walking around with the B team with Nicky Rod's B team jersey on.
Oh, okay.
That I thought was really funny. First match, we had PJ Barch getting fielded first. And so the roster that we have, do you have the roster pulled up?
I do not, but I think I thought it was, I watched it in the wrong order. I don't know what order I watched it in because I saw so I woke up late. I saw the last 2 finals matches. So I know what bracket was last.
And then you watched that order.
But the other 2, I watched them in the order that I thought they went, but I must not have watched them first because I thought I was almost positive that Nicky Rod and Owen were the first match of the entire event because they kept on saying that they chose to go first. And
no. PJ Barch came out first.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the order, at least the order that I remember watching it in. And he defeats Tomoyoshi Sera by rear naked choke.
Okay.
And so PJ Barch stays on, and one person is eliminated from Team Sakuraba. And we went, okay, PJ Barch, of the Team 10 Planet guys, is probably the strongest member that they have there.
Yeah.
He took out JT Torres. They mentioned us on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Took out JT Torres, 2-time ADCC champion at the last ADCC a year ago at this point.
Yeah.
51 and a half weeks ago, he beat, arguably at the time, who was considered the best guy at the planet at the weight class. PJ Barch probably your number 1 guy. PJ Barch then goes against Kazushi Sakuraba, and this is where the weirdness immediately begins in the event in general. And again, not weirdness in a bad way, but just
no, because this wasn't like. This was weirdness, but this wasn't.
This was Sakuraba weirdness.
This wasn't bad nature weirdness. No. This was just weirdness.
This was just Sakuraba being Sakuraba for the most part. And so PJ Barch is moving through, and Sakuraba is notoriously super hard to put away.
Yeah, like you can break his shit, and he just kind of chills. He just
go
looks
watch
at you.
Any of his Pride fights.
Yeah, you can punch him in the face 50 times.
Notoriously hard to put away. And PJ Barch has essentially a belly down ankle lock that he's sort of going for. He's sort of turning out. And Sakuraba starts like talking in Japanese. And he's like he's a showman.
Yeah.
Sakuraba comes from professional wrestling. His style is a professional wrestling style. If you go and watch some of his previous exhibition matches he's had on Quintet, they have been professional wrestling style matches that he's brought to Quintet. And they've always like, is this real? Is this not real? I'm not sure. In the tournament matches, he usually doesn't do this, but in this one, he seemed to be a little bit on the showman side.
Yeah.
And he starts talking, and PJ Barch, it seemed like, in this ankle lock, kind of went, oh, Sakuraba's talking aggressively, or not aggressively, but in Japanese.
I think there was a scream, or there was some kind of, that's what it sounded
like.
He
emoted aggressively.
Yeah, there was a aggressive vocalage.
Yeah.
And I think PJ thought he like was tapping, so he like let go.
He didn't let go all the way, but he sort of half let go, and Sakuraba was like, no, we're good.
Yeah, and it's like, we're fine. And you could see the ref look at him and be like, well, and they just,
everyone except for Sakuraba get super confused.
Yeah.
And everyone went, is he going? Is he still going?
Yeah,
Sakuraba owns the event, so I'm not going to, if he says we're going, we're going to keep going. But so I guess we're going to keep going.
But then they gave him a penalty, which they call something else, but I forget what.
Ashido.
Yeah,
okay. it's a term in judo. Shido.
And that begins the whole entire, the madness.
That is kind of the
and that bracket goes for 4 against 3 Ashidos at the end. There's 7 Ashidos in this one bracket.
PJ Barch, so PJ Barch goes and has the rest of the match with Sakuraba.
Yeah.
He has a couple other ankle locks. This was kind of a pivotal, not really a pivotal moment, but it was interesting because the commentator mentioned, I think PJ could have taken that.
Yeah.
And from the position, it looked like, maybe. But Sakuraba is notoriously hard to put away, but Barch was in a pretty good position to possibly belly down and through. But again, we've seen Sakuraba get out of some really deep positions where it's like, how is his leg not broken? Sakuraba just goes, makes a bunch of noises, and then gets out, and you're like, man, you are crafty and hard to put away. So it's really hard to tell if this moment was going to be one of those moments, or if Barch wouldn't have been able to put Sakuraba away, but we're not going to know. The match continues. Barch kind of turns it up a little bit, but Sakuraba gets a little more defensive in how he's rolling, keeps his arms in, keeps his legs in, and Barch gets eliminated, and Sakuraba gets eliminated because it goes to a draw. And I was like, okay, well, Team 10th Planet is still up. That was kind of weird. It will be unfortunate if this is sort of this is the reason, because Barch is the best guy on Team 10th Planet's team. Like, they fielded him first for a reason. But Richie and Haisam Rita go. That's a rematch from Quintet 2.
Yep.
Where Haisam Rita hit a really, really quick and nasty armbar on Richie Martinez. These two guys came out hot.
Yeah, they were...
They seemed upset at each other.
Yeah.
And Haisam was...
And they were like, Haisam dropped an elbow on his face at one point.
Haisam elbowed him they had a slow-mo
did a Muay Thai
doing
elbow.
a Muay Thai elbow to do a collar tie over him, and Richie's like, he elbowed me in the face. And you can see Richie's mouth bleeding. And Richie's upset about this, but Richie earlier had been grabbing Haisam's hand, his fingers and stuff.
Doing
and it was
mercy grips.
The match immediately seemed like there was bad blood between the guys in a way that I'm not really used to seeing from a Haisam Rita match, and occasionally we'll see from Boogie matches where. But not Haisam Rita. I've never seen him really. I'm trying to think back of a match where Haisam has had not issue with a guy, but there's this match from immediately seemed weird because Haisam had very little regard for elbowing and hitting Richie in a way that's kind of uncommon from what I've seen from Haisam.
Yeah.
And Richie seemed to be
And then I think everything was getting amplified because one would accidentally, and maybe not accidentally, maybe just hit the other one.
It got chippy.
And then the other one would hit back. And it was full hit. Words were being said and they were throwing each other around.
Yeah, both guys seemed it was almost an uncomfortable match to watch because you're like, all right, it's getting a little weird.
And then Heisem wound up getting 2 penalties. If he would have got a third one, he would have been done.
Yeah. So it came close.
Yeah.
Richie defended Heisem the entire time. Heisem had good passing. He prevented Richie from being able to get to the legs, but really dominated, like just used his physicality to dominate. And that was sort of, if you watched the match, Heisem was, I'm going to say jittery, but not in like the nervous, in like the, I cannot imagine what it's like to try to grab a hold of a guy that is moving in the way that Heisem, like just in and out jittery, where he's going to yank at you. And it was really weird to watch.
And then afterwards, if you noticed, Heisem immediately left the mat and went somewhere else.
Yeah,
like
it was.
He didn't shake hands. He didn't do like anything that they generally, always do.
It was odd. It was
odd.
Odd match.
It was odd.
Then we had, so they're both eliminated. So Team Planet still up one person. Move on to Geo Martinez versus Daisuke Nakamura. It goes to a draw. This
was like 3 minutes of Geo Martinez on
Daisuke Nakamura.
Yeah, on his back.
Yeah.
Just like, and at
there was 2 points I thought he was going to get it.
Yeah, at times I was like, holy shit, like how's this, like he was taking some, like his neck does not feel good today.
Yeah. Daisuke's a gangster.
And it was some rough goes.
There are 2 sequences in this match where I thought, I was like, man, most people are going to tap to the rear naked choke that Geo has in, but Daisuke Nakamura did a great job staying calm. He did a great job, like, pulling down enough on Geo's arm where Geo couldn't finish locking in. I actually I wanted to check the weight difference between Geo Martinez and Daisuke Nakamura, because they looked similar sizes.
I think they were similar.
But I bet Daisuke has 15 to 20 pounds on Geo.
Are these written? Are the weights written anywhere?
They're written on the walkouts, but I haven't found a result that has them.
The other question would be, was this a 8-minute match? Or was there enough weight between them that...
I think it was. I
think it was too.
Oh, so Quintet also, if there's more than a 20 kilo difference, 20 pound difference?
20 pound
difference, the matches go from 8-minute length to the person who is the smaller person gets to decide, do you want a 4-minute match or an 8-minute match? And we've seen that used tactically either way, where certain times the smaller guy wants more time, other times the smaller guy wants less time. But that's another kind of quirk of the Quintet rule set. This goes to, I was really impressed. Daisuke Nakamura has really great late stage rear naked choke defense.
So he is generally 146, so he's not that big.
Okay, so he was, so they were the same, about the same size then, because I think Geo was about 145 here, which is about what Martinez walks around at. But he gets out, so both of these guys are eliminated. Even though Geo put up, really, really great defense on Daisuke Nakamura and almost took him out a couple of times with an arm block and 2 rear naked chokes that were deep. Next, we move on to Kyle Boehm versus Harry Gretsch. It goes to draw as well. This was one of those, you're at the last member of one team versus the second to last member of another team. All your guy has to do is go to draw. And so I don't like to read a lot into these matches because the guy, and Kyle's a big guy.
But Harry kept on grabbing like the same exact Kimura over and over, and Kyle just kept on taking his back. Yeah. And it was like, the entire match was Harry going after the same...
That jumping Kimura. And then Kyle would counter him and back take him, and that was...
And this was also the match that the kick happened in. Kyle Boehm got mad and kicked him in the chest.
That was Craig Jones.
Yeah, but he also...
Also happened here?
It also happened here.
I forgot about that. So... that was the match. Goes to draw, and then Team 10th Planet moves on because of the submission that PJ Barch had on Tomogishi Sera in the first round. Then anything else on the first round there?
Nope.
We move on to the first round of the Team B Team Bulls versus Team Polaris. And we open this up with Nicky Rod versus Owen Livesley. And again, much like the Richie Martinez and Heisem Rita match, this match, like,
they had some beef.
There's something going on.
I don't know if it was Nicky Rod just trying to like put his domain, like trying to like peacock.
I wasn't sure.
Because Owen foot sweeps him and almost immediately off draw.
Oh, that was...
And it was a good foot sweep.
This was an amazing foot sweep.
And the fact that he didn't run in on it after he did it, and he just like let him get back up, I was like,
So what I thought, at the beginning of this match, let's kind of set the stage. Nicky Rod walks out looking super intense. Yeah. Owen walks out looking like pretty much like Owen looks.
He also has longer hair and looks like a like an uncle from New Jersey.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Owen walks out, kind of as Owen normally does.
Yeah.
Nicky Rod
With
walks
his head
out.
all wrapped up.
Because he has a cut, as
Yeah.
usual.
His big ass
Which is
legs.
potentially why he's not at trials this
Yeah.
week, but we're not quite sure about that. And then immediately we see that judo and Greco game from Owen, where he walks up, they kind of tie up, and then Owen hits a beautiful same side foot sweep, and like just he catches Nicky Rod at the perfect time as he's putting weight onto the foot. You will not see a more like textbook Dayashi Barai than this. It's just the same side. He just goes boop, and he knocks over Nicky Rod. Nicky Rod looks like annoyed greatly about this, and I think Owen didn't jump in because I don't think Owen expected it to work immediately. I think Owen was like, I'm gonna throw this out there
he thought
to get
he
him
was just
moving,
gonna kick his leg basically,
and then he didn't expect him. So I think he was like, oh, he went
well,
down.
then I think Nicky Rod got pissy because that's when he like almost. That's the first time he almost tried to throw Owen off the stage, and then he successfully throws to Owen off the stage
later in the match.
Well, he doesn't really throw him off the stage. Owen like jumps off the stage.
He kind of pushes him close, and like the momentum's still going.
But then they start having words.
Yeah, and they're kind of going back and forth a little bit. The match was mostly Nicky Rod passing,
but towards the end he passed.
Yeah, and then towards the at 3 seconds left, he gets Owens back for a quick second and starts to try to rear naked choke him, but there's just not enough time left in the match. You know, Nicky Rod looked very good when it went to the mat. He used his physicality, used his size, his passing, his body lock passing looks like the best in the world.
But I would have expected more out of Nicky Rod on his feet against a smaller gentleman.
Yeah, I kind of expected him to blast double or like move like. And Owens
and that's what he does later on.
That's
what he does.
Yeah.
He comes off like and just blasts doubles.
I've always been really surprised about how good Owens wrestling is. Like we've seen him,
and it's not really wrestling because like I listened to something where he was going on about like what he did judo, but it was just judo without a gi. Like that's how they train.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like in America where we do like Greco or we go. It was literally judo.
No-gi judo.
No-gi judo.
So Owen, if you don't know, we've talked about him for a couple of years on the show. He's a 2013 Commonwealth Judo champion.
He was like a Commonwealth Judo champion for like 4 years. I forget how many years they said. They said it's a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah. Very,
like,
very good judoka.
Very good judoka.
And that comes through. We've talked about for years. Like Owen a lot of times will throw guys off because he's weirdly difficult to get down and get in.
And
on.
He's not. I think he's like 5'6" because he's barely.
He's about my height.
Yeah, he's barely taller than me because I have a picture with him.
Yeah,
and he's shorter than I expected. Like I expected him to be real tall.
Tree trunk legs though. We saw
that.
But
his legs are like the side of my waist. It's pretty amazing.
So it was a weird match, and there immediately seemed like there was a little bit of drama, but not drama, like between Team Polaris and B Team. I couldn't quite figure it out. But I was like, oh, this is a weird match.
Owen was, I think, preparing for this with New Wave. Because I saw a bunch of photos of him at New Wave.
Maybe that's what it is.
So maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but it was kind of.
I don't want to read too much into it, but it was a weird match.
It was weird.
Next, we move on to the next brother. We had a bunch of brothers on this tournament. Yeah. We had Jay Rodriguez versus Jed Hugh, and two things in this match. Go back and watch every highlight of this match because they're wild. One, ain't nothing changed. J-Rod loses at the beginning of a match. Yeah. They talk about on the Simple Man podcast, they talk about all the time, like Jay Rodriguez will lose the beginning of the match and then will win the end of the match every time. Nothing changed here. Jed Hugh has J-Rod in a beautiful choi bar.
Yeah.
Steps over, he flips, he inverts, he goes under, and Jay Rodriguez has some of the not wildest defense, but just
it's wild.
Thoughtful. He turns his arm down. He clears a little bit of the elbow, but not enough to be beyond the hip line completely. He then does a full rotation under, tracking the shoulder under so that Jed has to adjust to keep in front of the elbow. Then he spins under all the way and eventually puts his legs over and then gets out. The entire sequence, his arm is completely, fully extended, shades of like Verdum versus Vinny Magles. Not quite in the same way where he's leveraging the shoulder flexibility, but in the spin, he is leveraging the shoulder flexibility to avoid having the pressure put into the elbow, but he also does a great job of slipping the elbow just far enough where Jed is still trying to pull the arm up in order to have the leverage over the hips and the groin to go through the elbow. It was if you've watched jiu-jitsu, you have seen the highlight already by the time you're watching the show. If you haven't, I don't say it often, pause the show, go back and watch the sequence.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It is some of the highest level armbar defense that you will ever see. And it's kind of why we've been so hot on J-Rod for a couple of years, because we knew he had this level of just freak athleticism and spatial awareness that you really can't teach. Like, you can't teach a guy to do this.
The thing is, after getting out of that armbar, he does like a pass sequence, which is like perfect. And I'm like, you just almost had your arm ripped off. Now you're passing.
There wasn't a pause. There wasn't a break. There wasn't a shake it out.
Yeah.
There was just like, oh, cool, I'm in this position now, ready to pass.
Yeah.
And then immediately starts to pass. It was beautiful. And then there's a couple matches. I was really impressed with just the tenacity that Jed Hugh had on the subs. Because Jed Hugh was on the bottom the entirety of the match. And it was just J-Rod looking to pass, passing, going on top, looking for something, looking for the next thing. And Jed Hugh was just in the mix the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm happy his foot's healed up.
And then
from Polaris.
And then Jed Hughes talking shit at the end.
And then Jed Hughes. So this was funny though, because the teams, you could hear the B team kind of chirping, you could hear Team Polaris chirping, and you could hear Jed Hugh talking to J-Rod while everything has happened, like smiling and laughing and like talking to him. It's like, that's not going to work. And like, there was this weird, it wasn't camaraderie.
No.
But it was definitely like,
it was shit talking.
It was shit talking. But it was casual shit talking. I'm like, I'm not trying to piss you off.
Yeah.
But I'm just like,
but it was
good.
It was interesting to see, because like, you do it with your friends when you roll with them, but like in a competition, generally you don't do that.
But it was. I'm not sure if they mic'd it up differently, or like, we heard a lot more of that in this tournament than I am used to. Like, I've been mat side for big tournaments before, like ADCC 2019, I was on the mat for ADCC 2019 doing media work.
I don't remember them talking shit like this.
It's not common. Like Wagner matches will do it a little bit. And like, who else? Like Rockshot, like certain guys will do it, and you know that they will talk to you a lot. Like Kevin Holland will do it like during his matches and during his fights, but it's not super common in jiu-jitsu. I think maybe because of the IBJJF, or because like
IBJJF will
DQ you, but these guys go back look at Craig Jones's Instagram. You can see some of the verbal exchanges that those teams had. They made me laugh.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
But this goes to draw. Again, super impressed with both of these guys. I walk away from this match, J-Rod versus Jed Hugh, being more impressed with both guys' game than I was prior. Like, these are the kind of matches you make a super fight for, where it's a clash of styles and you have a great submission hunter in Jed Hugh versus a really great, tenacious, young athlete that'll also like take your head off if you're given the opportunity. And we saw J-Rod's passing here looks better than it has ever looked before.
Oh, yeah.
Different style of passing than his brother.
Yeah.
But just super clean.
And fluid.
Mm-hmm. And a good back take attempts. Like, very impressed with both these guys here. It goes to draw. They're both eliminated. Next match. We had Joseph Chen versus Tarek Hopstock. Oh, Joseph Chen is at trials this week. He's at European trials. Yeah. He is Chinese and German.
Yeah.
I learned that on commentary.
Yeah.
I think Aiga has said that.
Aiga was where I learned it.
Yeah, I learned it.
They were talking about it
here
because they were talking about his name, because his first name is German and his last name is definitely Chinese.
Yeah. Yep. Versus Tarek Hopstock.
Yeah.
Man. Every time I see Joseph Chen, I am more impressed.
Yeah.
Like, I was impressed with him at Aiga, and here there are a couple of passing sequences that he hits on Tarek where he will either go for his back or he will loop around the legs and then immediately step over into mount. But when he steps into mount, he doesn't do that like shimmy thing where his leg position that he brings over is perfect.
Yeah.
It is exactly where he means it. There's no extra space. He didn't kind of up on top. He ends up exactly in the position that he is looking for. And he's what, 20 or 19?
Yeah, he's super young.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was that young. Super impressed with his top game performance here.
Yeah, and he, controlled that entire match.
Yeah. Any other notes on?
No. Besides the coaching, that was do the opposite of what Nikki says.
Yeah, that was that was more chirping.
That was another.
Do you remember who on Polaris said that?
It was Owen.
It was Owen.
You could pick out the accent. That's the only reason, like, you could hear the accent. And I was like, oh, that's Owen.
That's
and you
Owen.
can hear him, and he's like, do the opposite of what Nikki's saying. And he's saying it to Tariq, who's like basically below Joseph, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was like, you're talking shit to your own guy. You're like trying to get him to not like panic because of the position they're in. But I'm like, that's some weird shit right there.
There were some funny moments that you could hear in these matchups that I was just like, that's a weird. And then Craig Jones and all the guys that were posting from behind the scenes, you could hear like what they were actually saying, and it made me laugh. It made me like that. I hate that it's not the technique this week. It's like all just the banter between the guys, because that is so uncommon. It just has thrown me off this entire weekend of like thinking about how we're gonna recap.
And
this
I wonder if they got away with it also because
everyone's Japanese.
Everybody's Japanese and they don't understand what they're saying, so they can say whatever they want. And I feel
assume
like
most of the Japanese referees speak English as well.
They were trying to talk, like they did not understand, because if you watched them reset them sometimes, like there was there was a language barrier with the resets. So I think that they knew they could get away with it. So they were like, let's say some stupid shit out loud to see what happens.
That wouldn't surprise these guys. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So they're both eliminated. Next match we have Nikki Ryan versus Santiri Lilius. It goes to draw. Nikki Ryan looks. So this is the Nikki Ryan that I wish we would see
all the time.
Like he always looks good in tournament. We don't see him compete at a huge frequency. We're starting to see him kind of ramp up and compete more frequently, which I love. I've wanted to see it for years.
Hopefully he doesn't blow one of his knees
or a shoulder or a knee or a foot, or like I hope he stays injury free, because man, you see these flashes of like sustained brilliance where he's like, he's just phenomenal
like
in all of these places.
The bolos from his legs, like he's standing and he just kind of gets out of X guard and just bolos.
Mm-hmm. You showed it to me. The Meows broke it down.
Yeah, the Meows broke it down.
So there's
Meows do all kinds of breakdowns now, which I think is amazing, and they explain things like they did one on what's his name's passing, like the AOJ style of passing.
On Tynan's passing.
Yeah. They do
they did it on Abate. Like they do it frequently on Instagram, and we've known the Meows had like great technical knowledge for years. They're world champions, but it's really cool to see them like show you a piece of footage, and then like this is how you do it. This is where his foot goes. This is how he did this, and like they did it for this particular pass on Santiri, and it's amazing. It's just a very, very basic essentially counter leg drag out of the X guard to the back, and it's this beautiful little sequence. He shows how the leg flips over, and it's the piece that I can never get is when you're doing this, and the way Nikki Ryan does it is you go from hooking one leg as you go under them to flipping it over and hooking it with the other leg in order to push their bottom leg down so you can square and take their back.
Yeah, there's a whole kick that has to happen, but it's not, I don't know. I can't do it. I can tell you that much. It's too much.
Again, I was impressed with Santiri here.
Yeah.
The defense. Like, I hate that Quintet, a lot of times you just see beautiful defense, because sometimes just knocking out a really strong competitor is your goal.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can see fight fire with fire, and you get a match like J-Rod and Jed Hugh where it's like both guys are trying to be the guy that eliminates the other one. And other times you can have to go, hey, man, I can just eliminate this guy by drawing them. Yeah, we're both out, but tactically that might be the best thing. Or if the guy's starting to get the better of you, tactically I'm going to put the brakes on it, shell up, not give him anything to work with, and then work just enough to not get penalties called against me. You know, that does happen in Quintet as well. This one goes to draw. Any more technical pieces on this?
Nope.
It was a super neat sequence. Next one, we have Craig Jones versus Gregor Gracie. It goes to a draw. I think they've met each other before.
Yeah, have, yeah.
Was it in Polaris?
I think so. I believe so. Yeah, and I think they were on the same team at one point on a team event. I might be wrong with that, but
I don't remember.
Were
they on Team Polaris? Because I think Craig Jones has been on Team Polaris before. Maybe that's what it was.
Let's find out.
On one of the earlier quintets.
Let's find that fact out.
So the interesting thing is, so this goes to draw as well. And we were kind of curious. So previously what they've done with these goes to, if both teams go to draw for an equal amount of matches and there are no submissions.
Yeah. And there are no penalties.
There's no penalties. It goes to a decision.
Yeah.
And we were kind of curious, like, what the decision criteria was. Has it changed since the last time this happened at a Quintet? Because it's been a little bit, and it really seems like they do a standard like team decision, and I think it's sort of like, I'm gonna call it pride rules. They judge the match the teamwork as a whole, and I think B team getting here is really reasonable. I think both teams had some great sequences, but overall B team, I don't know if it's a submission criteria or if it's a dominant criteria or if it's a top position criteria. I don't know exactly what the criteria is for the decision in Quintet. If it's closer to fight to win or closer to ADCC, is it initiation or is it submissions? But I think B team by a lot of those metrics would take this. I think reasonably they do take it here.
Yeah. And
they move over versus Team Polaris. And so now in our finals, we have Team 10th Planet versus the B Team Bulls, the B Team team. You find it yet or no?
No, I can't figure out what it is. I was looking back in time to see if I could find something back in time.
On like what Polaris card it was?
Yeah, and I don't know.
Regardless.
Anyway, they've definitely went against each other before or trained on the same, or I don't know.
Is what it is.
Something happened.
So we went to the finals, Team 10th Planet versus the B Team Bulls. We start this one with Amir Alam versus...
here we go. Gregor Gracie and Craig Jones were both on Team Polaris.
Okay. I was right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You were correct.
Yep, that lives in my brain for some reason. I think I remember the Polaris team rash guards because I want one of those rash guards because those are one of the... I have like 6 rash guards that are like white rail rash guards that I want to get, and that's one of the rash guards. That's like a white rail rash guard for me.
Okay.
Amir Alam versus Jay Rodriguez. Again, we haven't seen Amir Alam in... I think the last time we've talked about him on the show was about Quintet.
Probably.
It was like the last Quintet that he was on, and it's been a couple of years. I was impressed. He threw up a gang of subs at Jay Rodriguez, and Jay Rodriguez, again, weathered the storm and then was looking to put up positional offense on Amir.
And this was a match that Amir had over 20 pounds on J-Rod.
Yeah.
So it was an 8-minute match, but it was an 8-minute match because J-Rod wanted an 8-minute match, which we were discussing in the pre-show. J-Rod admits to the fact that he takes time to warm up.
Yeah.
Like,
he admits that he loses the beginning of matches.
He loses.
Talked about it.
So he kind of needs the 8 minutes to kind of get where he's going.
And we've seen plenty of matches where it's like he has a rough 8 minutes, and then in the last 2 minutes of a match or 5 minutes of a match of a 15-minute will like turn it on in a way that like, wow, where was that minute 5?
And Amir,
he just needs time.
Amir, I think, had the same exact arm on J-Rod in this match too, because Amir had an arm lock.
I think so.
Yeah, he had an arm lock very similar to the one that
Jed Hugh got.
And
J-Rod was like, nah.
Yeah.
J-Rod posted a super funny clip today, maybe yesterday, and it was, everyone wants to see how my arm is today. He goes, let me show you the swelling, and he flexes and points to his bicep and goes, right here. And it was weirdly endearing, and I was like, that's a guy that gets it. That's a guy that, like, I can laugh with about the defense of the arm. But his arm did look fine. He has good defense, man.
Yeah.
He puts up great positional offense, but Amir, a couple of times, he's either going for the legs or going for the arm, but the arm was definitely the closest attack that Amir had. But then J-Rod consistently showed us really good passing. But Amir consistently got back to the guard in a way that, like, I was pretty impressed with. Like, I would honestly love to see Amir compete more frequently. I know he was a full-time, I think he was a professor.
Okay.
Or something like that. And now apparently he has moved on to full-time as a coach.
Okay.
I kind of would like him if he looked really good. I would love to see him on more events because that super submission hunting game and the guard that he was continually able to work out of, I was impressed with. Goes to draw. Both guys are eliminated. Any other pieces?
Nope.
Next match, we had PJ Barch versus Nick Rodriguez.
And this was the match that Nick Rod just, doubles the shit out of PJ Barch. Like, off jump. Like, it's immediate.
Yeah.
And PJ is a pretty good wrestler. I mean, he is a good
PJ
wrestler.
Is a very, very good
He's
wrestler.
A very good wrestler when I think about it.
But again, Nicky Rod is probably, I think PJ Barch was 170.
There was over a 20-pound difference, and that's why PJ Barch got this to be a 4-minute match.
Yeah.
This was only a 4-minute match.
But Nicky Rod, I think, was
he's probably 230, 240.
No, I looked at it, and I think he was like might have been 225. I forget what
Oh.
weight he. I'm annoyed because I remembered everyone else's weight.
He is kind of smaller than he normally is.
Yeah. But Barch I think was 171.
Okay.
If I recall.
That makes sense.
If I recall, because I
that sounds
tried to take a mental
and
note.
That sounds right.
I should have taken an actual note. Nicky Rod looks good here. Barch puts up a lot of good defense. Barch puts up some good offense, but it's a match that really looks like it's going for a draw. You're looking to take Nicky Rod out.
Yeah. PJ Barch put his rash guard for sale that was all covered in blood after this match, but then it disappeared.
So somebody got that.
It was up for $500. I don't know if he was just joking or if he was really selling it, but
that's honestly for a cool
He
piece.
had it like turned inside out, and turned inside out, you could see the amount of blood on it. For a
cool memorabilia item, that's actually kind of cool. Like,
it's also like some kind of like, I don't think you can mail that. I don't think you can. You're not allowed to
mail
send
stuff with blood
in the mail.
I'm not sure. It's memorabilia at that point.
Yeah.
So they get eliminated. We move on to the next person on the team, which is Craig Jones versus Richie Martinez. Now, Craig Jones and Richie Martinez have a little bit of history. There's a very famous straight ankle lock from a De La Riva hook that Craig Jones hit on Richie Martinez at Quintet.
It's a Terra lock.
2? Oh, it is a Terra lock, isn't it?
It's a Terra lock.
Yeah.
Quintet 3.
Is it 3 or 2?
3. I have it written down.
Okay.
2 is the other match that we're going to talk about.
Well, Kasai Pro 2.
Yeah, Kasai Pro 2.
That was a heel hook win that he has over Richie Martinez. It's actually weirdly hard to find on records. It's not on a lot of the records that we pulled, because I tried to remember when it was.
2018.
But only, for some reason, Tapology only has Kasai Pro 1 and Kasai Pro 4 or 5, I think 5.
Yeah,
it's missing 2 and 3.
We went to a couple different places.
But that match happened, so they have some history. Craig Jones hits another kind of highlight reel sub here off a De La Riva hook that Richie Martinez has in. And this is not a sub I've seen hit in competition before.
I called it the weirdo under leg toe hold.
So this is something that you see. It's one of those really, really situational footlocks that you see in training now and again. But it's when someone has a deep De La Riva hook all the way through. If you go to clear it, but you reach under, you can grab their toes.
Yeah.
And then you could do what Dean Lister talks about when you have an inside threaded hook. You can just lift up on their heel, and essentially you can do a power toe hold from over top of them. Craig Jones reaches through his leg to do this, which is an uncommon way to do this.
Yeah.
But the mechanics are the same, and then he falls back, and that pressure of him falling back and pushing in essentially is a power topside toe hold. Yeah. The mechanics are the same, but it's just an uncommon way to do that.
And thankfully, they showed us a replay, because when it first happened, I had no idea what happened.
I saw him do it. I was like, he did not just do that.
Well, and I like to think of stuff like that as more of a, you threaten it so they move that foot.
Well, usually that's what it is.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when you try to grab the Aoki lock, if they keep their one foot too high, you don't do it because you actually think it's going to work. You do it to move their foot.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of Johnny Grippo versus Ellis, where it was like, it's a situational technique, and that was the one that the Grippo and Rippo, where he has his foot on the hip, and and Johnny falls back and rips. It's like, it's in the same vein where it's something that you go for when someone's foot is out of position and you attack it. A lot of times you don't get the tap with it, but sometimes if you go hard and quick on it and you catch someone not expecting that lock to happen, you can get it. And that's sort of what it looks like here, because Richie looks like his knee popped or something popped in it.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that you're usually aware of, but if you keep your foot out there, it's something that's possible. It's just, I don't ever recall seeing this at this level of competition. And that's why Craig Jones is kind of a special dude. He can do this sort of stuff, at this level, which is impressive. So Craig Jones moves on.
Yep.
Only the second submission of the tournament so far in the bracketing. He moves on to Richie Martinez's brother, Geo Martinez. And they've never gone against each other before.
No.
But there's a giant weight discrepancy here.
And Geo elects for a 4-minute round, which good on Geo, because I wouldn't want... Craig Jones is a big man. Like, you don't realize...
He's 200 plus pounds.
When I stood beside him, his legs basically came up to my shoulders.
Yeah, he's
a very tall, lanky man.
Yeah.
He has a small torso, but long legs.
And long arms.
Yeah.
He has interesting proportions. He is able to sub Geo with exactly the thing that we've been seeing the past month and a half, 2 months.
At AIGA.
At ADCC, at like this triangle armbar from the back is becoming the new meta. People are drilling how to get there. People are drilling how to defend, like roll throughs on the back to lock their legs together.
Yeah, I think a big part of it also is because when you jump someone's back, when they're turtled, their arms are extended.
Yeah.
So you don't only have to work to get an arm extended. The arm's already there.
We're seeing it a lot, and it's what we see here. Craig Jones is able to take Geo Martinez's back, but he does it with the back triangle, and then he's able to lift the arm up and start attacking the shoulder, and then gets the weird kind of Americana shoulder lock armbar combination in this position in under 4 minutes because it was that short length match. So now the B team are essentially up 2.
Yes.
Which in Quintet, that's a huge deficit, especially when the other team only has 1 person left.
Yeah.
Like they only have Kyle Boehm left, and Kyle Boehm and Craig Jones have had a recent match at ADCC 2022 where Kyle Boehm shot into Craig Jones and Craig Jones finished an arm and guillotine on him.
Yeah.
Is that the only match they had?
That was the only one I could find.
Yeah. So, and we were live for that, and that was a crazy match.
And it was a very quick guillotine.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
We rewatched it before the show just to see remember what it was, and it was like, oh yeah, that was like Craig Jones is in it and just arches back into it.
He does the guillotine that a lot of times at white belt they tell you never to do because there's no way you're actually going to get it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
He's
like,
super strong. Craig Jones, like Hanger, when you watch Hanger do the arm and guillotine, Josh Hanger, he will slide. He makes this super aggressive angle to the side, which is usually how, if you're ever going to do an arm and guillotine, you're taught to do it because if you don't do it that way, most people can't do it. We talked about Craig Jones's proportions. I think with his super long arms and his world-class squeeze, like he can get that position with his hands and he can arch over you and he can finish that regardless of needing to make that super aggressive angle. He's also super flexible in his hips, so he can throw his leg up on your back and prevent the roll and sort of get you to turn the angle for him. We saw him guillotine Mason Fowler in kind of not quite a similar way, but close.
Yeah.
If you shoot it on him, like he's very, very good at that front headlock game. This one goes to a draw. Kyle Boehm and Craig.
And you kind of saw that Kyle was definitely trying to attack Craig's legs. Yeah. And towards the end, you could tell Craig was just chilling. Like he just wanted to get through. Like he was just trying to survive. It was his 3rd match, so I can't imagine.
3rd match. It's Boehm's a big, strong dude.
Who's going after your legs.
And Boehm is constantly Boehm is an elite level leg locker. Craig again is also probably one of the best leg lockers in the sport. But still, Boehm on your legs is dangerous. But Craig seemed to kind of figure out where Boehm wanted to go.
And towards the end, there was a little bit of back and forth when Kyle started giggling at each other as they were doing it. I think because Kyle's like trying to crank shit and Craig was just chilling. And then
Craig is notoriously amazingly hard to footwork.
Yeah.
And so you saw Kyle it seemed like a little frustration almost.
Yeah.
But again, when you have a guy that Craig was not looking to push the pace here because if Boehm is a great counter guy.
Yeah.
And if you give Boehm too much forward momentum and pressure, he will counter, he will get under you, and he will rip your leg off or your arm off. And so Craig played it very tactically safe, stayed on top, looked to pass, but would kind of maybe give Boehm a leg and then sort of stand up on it or flex his foot or he would occupy Boehm's time in going for the leg
and he would do
he had defended
and he was doing enough that he wasn't stalling.
Yeah. Again, Craig played it perfectly.
Yeah.
This is exactly how you should play your 3rd match in Quintet when there's 1 team member remaining and you still have guys in the tank. Like, you play for the draw because you submitting Kyle or you drawing with Kyle for you and your team is the same result.
Yeah.
Is you guys win. Like, it's one of the unfortunate side effects of Quintet. As a result, we got to see a lot of submission offense from Boehm.
I wonder if you started giving awards for finishes. If it would have an actual finish.
We've talked about it, but most of the time, guys, the victory, the problem with the sport is the victory means more than just the sub. It's more important to just straight up win than it is how you won.
Yeah.
And that's still a problem that we have in the sport if we're looking for people to more actively hunt for the sub. The great thing about Quintet in the earlier rounds is you're losing until you win. You're both getting eliminated until you win. But in the later rounds, you can have this problem where it's Craig Jones is playing in a tactical way that you would expect and want him to play if he's looking to win. But he is not looking for super heavy offense on Boehm because he draws, he wins. He submits, he wins.
Yeah.
It's easier to draw than try to submit a guy like Kyle Bain. So
yeah, and he's notorious for taking second place. So, he probably should have chilled.
yeah, is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
So B team looked great. Honestly, all the teams look good. I always love the intensity that Quintet brings. It was overall a little bit of a odd tournament in some respects where there was a lot more jabber and kind of talk.
Yeah, it was interesting.
But it was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
Even if there were very few subs, it was still fun to watch.
The matches were still entertaining.
Yeah, the whole event's Quintet, and that's why I love watching Quintet.
What's it called? The one 10th Planet girl from Bethlehem, the young
Grace Gundrum?
Yeah, she was on this card.
This card.
I thought she was because they were with her in Japan. I was looking at pictures of her competing in Japan. So she must have been on maybe the undercard of this.
So Quintet also does an amateur thing as well
that
is not broadcast. We've tried to find it in the past.
Because she won her match against someone.
Oh, really?
But I couldn't find it. Because I think the 10th Planet Bethlehem guys were with her.
Oh, really?
But I think, it was, I don't know.
Well, I'll go look and find that. We had two special matches on the card. We had Taisei Sakuraba, which is Sakuraba's son, defeating Masato Uchishiba, credentialed judo champion, gold medalist. It was fun. It was nice to see Sakuraba be willing to go into the legs. He hits a really interesting modified knee bar that he goes from the chest, and then he's able to spin underneath to hit a behind the back knee bar. Beautiful technique. Later in the match, it was nice to see Sakuraba and his kid. Looks like his son is doing kickboxing and looking to make this transition kind of in his father's footsteps to MMA. In the pre-interviews, they talked about him quitting his job and focusing on training. And I'm kind of curious to see what he looks like in MMA. So this was a great match. We also had Haruko Ishihiro defeating Meg Yamaguchi by knee bar as well. Another really interesting knee bar that Hakuri, I'm going to mess her name up. Hakuri basically pummels the leg through from underneath and then threads over and then is able to hit May by going under as well. Okay. So it was very, very similar knee bars set up different ways for both, but it was nice to have both special matches winning via knee bar.
Yeah.
And they were both kind of generational matches because Mei Yamaguchi is one of the pioneers of Japanese MMA, and Ushihiba is not one of the pioneers of Japanese judo, but very, very credentialed judoka in Japan. And so you have two people in Taisei Sakuraba and Hakuri Ishiguro that are up and coming, that are younger. I think Ishihiro is only 23 or 22, and I think Sakuraba is a very similar age as well. So it was cool to have Quintet put on these kind of generational matches between the two. Overall, a great card.
It was fun.
Miranda, any kind of closing thoughts?
Nope. It was fun. I would like to see more of them.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to BJJ Stars 11. Where do you want to start? Want to start with the women's GP or the super fights?
Well, let's discuss the event itself. You can see it on Flow. There is a Portuguese replay and there's an American replay.
Yeah, English replay.
The English replay,
it's rough.
It's rough.
So I think from a production standpoint, it looks like the English replay didn't have a clean audio feed of just the event audio with no commentary. And so what they did is they just muted the event.
Yeah, so it's like a quiet event with guys talking in a room, and you can almost hear the echo of them.
Yeah, it's very clearly remote dub commentary. I usually don't have a problem, but it threw me off for this event. There's also big chunks where they're like commercial breaks where there's nothing going on.
But there was stuff going on.
Yeah,
I was positive there were stuff going on, and they were just commercial breaking.
Yeah, the first hour of the Portuguese commentary is pretty spotty for sound. There's just no sound for most of it. After an hour, it goes to sound. I watched the Portuguese version because having it with no ambient audio, I just didn't. I want to hear what's happening in the event and in the arena. That's how I like to watch jiu-jitsu. So unfortunately, I did miss a lot of the insight that the English commentators brought.
I watched the English commentary.
Okay, so I watched the Portuguese and I watched all the ads and watched the whole event. We watched different events essentially. I would recommend watching the Portuguese commentary. I would love if they're going to do dub commentary. to make sure that they have a clean feed of just event audio without commentary going to your U.S. broadcasters.
It was weird
because it made for a really poor viewing experience. There was a bunch of camera issues as well. There were some hiccups that I'm not used to seeing from BJJ Stars here, and I don't know what happened, but it wasn't really the quality that we are used to from BJJ Bet or BJJ Stars. Although I am really happy that there were some fun matches on it. I just wanted to bring up the technical issues at the beginning so we don't have to keep relaying them throughout the event, because it kind of takes away from my enjoyment of the event for the great matches we had. So, female GP or super fights?
Female GP.
All right, opening round.
For $20,000.
Which is a big chunk of change. We had Gabriele Passana defeating Karina Santi via decision. I have just Magazine's results up here because they make good results.
It was 10-0.
They list decisions as points, so if I read it off, that's why.
Okay.
They always do it like that. And I love the formatting of just Magazine's results, which is why a lot of times that's what I'm referencing. But they list decision for whenever there's a point score at the end.
Okay. Makes sense. It was 10-0. Basically, Gabby passed, and then she does this. She almost does like a knee on belly. She has like a 3/4 mount. She doesn't do like a full mount. She has like a 3/4 mount, and then goes from there to the back. And
which is what you want to do, because you keep that 3/4 mount hook in.
It
essentially turns into the first back take hook. Which is something I learned at Purple Belt. It's helped me out a lot over the years.
And she tried that belly down, the belly down rear naked choke that she likes very much. And Karina wasn't.
She's been hitting that a lot recently as well. We saw her win something major. I think Worlds.
It was Worlds
with that exact
and
choke.
And she did it to
Baby Vieira.
Yeah, and Baby got
upset about
it because she tapped and I guess didn't let go, and that whole situation. But Karina did a really good job of not letting her get both of her hooks in when she went belly down, and then also getting back to her back, and just kind of dealing with the 3/4 mount as opposed to having her back taken and having and getting choked. And
next match.
Yeah.
Melissa Couto defeated Tamara Silva via armbar.
Yeah. And this was a crazy arm. So this was a different match because Tamara Silva was actually beating Melissa Couto.
Stricker Couto.
Couto.
I think I always forget she had a name change. Melissa.
Yeah. So but Tamara's was basically pulled. She had like a lasso guard. She swept her. She got on top of her.
We saw a couple of like good lasso sweeps this event.
Yeah, and then she somehow allowed Melissa to kind of get a wrestle up, and as she wrestles up, Tamiris goes for a single leg, but rather than kind of going through and taking her down, she kind of chills on her leg for a second, and Melissa just grabbed her arm and freaking did a crazy armbar out of nowhere. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. Like, Tamiris was kind of controlling armbar.
It's an uncommon armbar. You see it. It's more of a gi technique than no gi, the friction. But it is something that if I do see it, you see it in the gi.
I think it's more of a judo armbar too.
It reminds me of that because there's that slide back over because their arms extended, and if you slide up to it, you can get it still. It's just not something we see a lot in no gi, but in the gi. It's one of the reasons that you don't really want to hang out in that spot for too long, because that armbar is available if they really do go for it. Yeah. But a neat reversal of roles there.
Yeah, it was.
Next match we had Tayane Porfirio defeating Wilma Moreno via points 9-0.
Yeah. And this was Tayane Porfirio. Pulling. And I want to say they go into an exchange and they switch positions, because I don't think there were points awarded for that switch. It wasn't a sweep. But then Tayane, I don't know why that name keeps on. She does the same pass that Gabby Pisana does earlier, where you like take your head and you slam your head into their jawline, and then you just knee cut hard as hell against them.
Yep.
And then she just goes to mount, and that's like the whole match. Wilma does put up a really good, set of attacks in the beginning of the match, but then Tanya kind of takes control, and it winds up being a 9-0 win.
Yeah, Porferio's dominant. Again, I really like, maybe in the later match, or this match, Porferio has a really, really good guard, and she is, for women at the kind of the absolute size, I'm always really, really...
It's the other match where she plays guard almost the entire time.
I'm just so impressed with her ability to kind of retain and entangle people. It reminds me a lot of like Victor Hugo's guard, where it's like something you don't expect from the bigger grapplers is their ability to just consistently maintain that flexible guard. Yes,
because her leg comes all the way through, and she inverts to keep her guard, and she's a very good guard player. You don't see that as much in this match, but you see a lot more when she goes against Yara Suarez. It was just. It's something I kind of like to highlight just because you don't see this level of guard play at the heavier weight classes frequently, and it's nice to see Porferio kind of back on the competition circuit having that level of like Victor Hugo style big person guard play. Next match we had Yana Suarez. I always call her Yara. I've always called her Yana. Yara Suarez defeating Malika de Lima on advantages. That was 2-1. Yeah, and it was Yara playing lasso guard. At sometimes she had like a spider lasso, which I think was good because Michaela was larger, like almost I would say significantly larger than Yara,
which is surprising. Yara is in the bigger weight classes, but
I think she is more lanky.
Yes,
I think she holds her weight differently. Where Michaela is a large.
Large.
Yeah. And she plays that really like
low and
like
heavy
crushy,
pressure,
heavy
heavy
game.
pass.
And so it was probably really good for Yara to have
she had a little more
spider
distance
at times
to work with.
to kind of push her away a little bit, to kind of control her.
And that's the opening round.
And that's how it goes.
Moving on to the semifinals, we had Gabriela Prasanna defeating Melissa Stricker-Couto via 2 points. Close match.
Yeah, this was a weird. So this one was the one where, Gabby pulls, and she has like a lapel under her leg, and they're going back.
Which we're seeing a lot of recently across all weight classes and all divisions, where it's like this is a specific pass people are doing. There's a name for it. I'm blanking what the name is right now. People are wrestling up with this lapel grip and using it to sweep frequently. It is becoming one of the most common gi sweeps that we see.
Yeah, because it controls their leg, and it makes them unable to really move that knee out or like get that leg out. And we see Gabby trying for the sweep on Melissa. Melissa's stabilizing, able to keep herself up. But then they kind of go towards the end of the mat. And when they come back in, Gabby wants one of her arms and her wrist grip like way out. And I don't know if it was really that's how it ended, but that's how they started it after Gabby kind of asked for that. And she just sweeps her immediately. Because at that point, like, Melissa doesn't really have the ability to hold her base. And so it was kind of a crappy place to restart you, but
it was one of those restart points where it's like
but that's the 2 points that Gabby gets to win. Not saying I don't think she has the ability to do that in any situation.
But whenever you have a restart like that, you always kind of question it.
And then you get the
is
points
it the restart? Is it not the restart? Would they have done that had they not restarted there? And it just that's kind of why I like ADCC, where it's like no edge of the mat, no restarts. You go until we finish.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, restarts piss me off sometimes.
They're just hard to do well because you're trying to recreate a dynamic position statically and then say go, and you have to create that static movement again, and it is impossible to do it. It's something you can't do.
That's something when I ref matches that I'm really weird about. Like, I try to make it so that you're not starting them in a position where one person has like 80% of the go from that position, just because
because you can take it away from someone, or you can give it to someone, and it's like, as a ref, I don't want to influence.
Yeah,
I don't want to change the outcome of the match.
Yeah, I'd rather start you at like a more neutral position. So I try to like stop matches when they go neutral or stand them up,
but
or
sometimes
you
can't
start from your feet. But
is what it is.
Anyway,
moving on, we have Yara Suarez defeating Tayane Porferio via decision. This is where we saw
Tayane's guard.
Yeah, and there was a lot of it, and I was again just super impressed with how dynamic she is in the guard, like her ability to run through and put her legs to her chest and get back. This was a guard player's game. Jits Magazine has the result here as tie break due to the guard pulling rule. The guard pulling rule in BJJ Stars is first person to pull guard on an even match loses. You understood the match to result to be differently.
Yeah, the American telecast, it seemed to be that they were awarding it to Yara because she had a near pass at the very end. Because at the very end, she almost passes. Tayani like inverts and gets back. But I mean, literally, you're maybe a second away from getting pass points on it. Like
Yeah.
it was a
So
pretty,
it's an advantage. It's an advantage scoring
So I
pass
took
prime
it
in
as,
BJJF.
and that's how they explained it, was that it was she went on an advantage.
Yeah.
They didn't explain this guard break rule. But then we went to another website and it said the same thing. So my
But again,
assumption is
a lot of the
rule.
websites, a
Yeah.
lot of the websites copy from each other.
Yeah.
Again, that's where I'm reading it from, and because I listened to it in Portuguese.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
get
and
that.
I tried to look for the BJJ Stars rules, and I couldn't find them either.
Yeah.
So
I pulled them up. There's a Portuguese PDF I found a couple of years ago.
Oh, I remember this.
And I had to translate it,
Yeah,
and it
we
was
had
a
to try-
whole
yeah.
thing, and the word lens. Moving on to the finals match, we had Gabriela Passana defeating Yara Soares via submission. These two women have gone to each other
a bazillion times.
3 to 4 times a year for the past 4 years?
Yeah, something like that.
With usually Gabriela Passana beating Yara Soares.
Yeah.
Kind of the same happens here. Gabriela Passana hits a belly down ankle lock, straight ankle lock on Yara Soares and wins the cash. Not a whole lot else in the match, really. It's a quick pull, and then Gabby sort of goes into the legs.
Double pull into the legs. And Yara allegedly is healing from a foot injury. So
And it's the same foot they got.
Yeah, and it's the same foot they
got
went
hit
after.
here.
So
So
there's possibility she,
yeah.
did what she needed to do. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If you know somebody, has a weakness,
Yeah, your
job is to exploit
you
it.
go for the bad foot. It's coming from MMA to
why
grappling always makes me laugh.
It's why you always if you have a knee brace on, you wear 2 knee braces. If you wrap one hand, you wrap both.
So
hands,
I learned this from a judo guy years and years ago because it's a judo thing.
Yeah.
That it's if you ever have in judo you mess up your fingers frequently. And I trained with a guy, black belt now, but I was training with him, he was a brown belt 10 years ago. And he would always mirror tape his hands the exact same way. And he was like, oh, because if you only tape one hand or tape one hand a certain way, they'll attack that hand.
Anyone who's ever trained at any point realizes that when you have anything marked in your training, people fucking go after it. I don't care if you tell them not to go after it, they still go after it. It drives me crazy.
It happens.
I don't know how many
I'm big on
times
big on marking stuff. Like, hey, don't touch that foot.
Yeah, and I'll mark it, and they'll still fucking go after it. I'm like, what the
No.
hell's wrong with you? I have another foot. Go after that one. Anyway.
So yeah, mirror tape your stuff. But again, I hope that Yara, not this tangent here, that Yara heals from that. But again, coming from the MMA world, you're used to that guy has a bad, Chris Weidman's leg, you're gonna kick the bad leg because that's the leg that has the injury or whatever.
And you don't take
That's you're trying to win matches
and you
for
don't
money.
take videos in the training room because people have shit taped up and they don't want you to know about it.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a taped up fight night, and that's combat sports. Is you look for any advantage that you can get. Again, not saying that Gabriela Passana wouldn't have won this if Yara had not had a previous foot injury, but it's just. It is always something to bring up when we're doing kind of analysis on the results here of we're always kind of curious how much that these sort of injuries play into, unless you're in someone's camp or they have an interview about it, you never know. And that's sort of the nature of combat sports. But I'm super happy that BJJ Stars ran this women's GP. $20,000 is a lot of money, and Passana looks, in great form. This is a stacked female bracket, and super happy for it. There were also some super fights on the card. I'm gonna run through a couple of them. I'm gonna run through all of them. Vitor Janeiro defeats Jan Bueno via 2 advantages. Peter Frank defeats Kyle Almeida via flying armbar.
Okay, if you've never watched Peter Frank, find him and watch him. He's at
it's just flying armbar. That's what's his game. That's
an
his
alliance guy, or alliance, as they like to say.
Alliance.
He's at every single IBJJF I think I've ever been at, and he's flying armbar dudes everywhere, and he does it in ways that you don't even understand.
He hits this flying armbar from the next zip code.
He throws them from a mile away.
He throws them almost no contact.
Yeah, it's freaking wild.
So you brought it up because we were like, okay, we got to talk about it.
I've been watching this guy for a long time. He's cool as shit.
He's easy to find because he has bleach blonde hair that's dyed, and he has a persona about him when he walks around.
He comes out in some kind of weird ass fight movie from the 1980s. He'll do the freaking
The
karate,
power up
like
and
the
like
Karate
yeah.
Kid shit. Like he's a weird dude, but he finds a way. And he was like, they had videos of him. He was like skateboarding his way there. He like got there on a skateboard.
He's a neat dude.
But he does a
Watching him
lot
for
of stuff in
years,
Portuguese, so I don't understand what he's saying half the time. But he's fun to watch.
Hits this armbar from like maybe he had a sleeve grip here is what he started with, kind of.
It's almost like Francisco Lowe's flying triangle on Taza.
Yes,
It's
at
that,
pins.
except for he goes to throw it, and then he turns at some point and armbars him. I don't even know how he does it.
So how Frank does these things is always kind of surprised me because it's one of those it is not done in a traditional way. He kind of does it his own way.
Yeah.
Where you brought it up on the pre-show, he's almost like he's throwing a flying triangle.
Yeah.
But with this one, he throws at a distance. He kind of knocks Kyle Almeida down.
Well,
and then he pulls the arm up
and to
into
explain
position.
this real quick, Kyle Almeida is sitting in seated guard.
Well, he starts it standing.
Yeah, but then
and he kind of sits as he goes.
He sits, but as he sits, Peter just like throws it, and it's something. He amazes me.
And then
every
Peter
single time.
gets up the arm. He pulls the arm into position. Almeida begins defending. It has good defense, but Peter's used to this, and like he breaks the arm, gets the arm out immediately. He does this at a strange frequency. This is the thing that Peter Frank does, much like Barry Osita in the Assassin Show. He is very good at it.
And I think it's one of those things that even if you know it's coming, I don't know if you can stop it.
Well, it's one of those things you don't see in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, how many guys in your camp, I mean, how many flying arm bars do we see a year at a high level? 10?
Yeah, not
15
very many.
Maybe?
Yeah.
At a high level where it's like, oh, that was a highlight reel arm bar. Peter Frank doesn't throw it like that.
No.
He doesn't throw it. He throws it in a unique way. So
generally you need
cross-side grip on the arm, and you pull it across as you do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it that way. He does it from the same side grip, and then he'll get his hips up close enough to you, and then he'll make all the adjustments as you're defending. He'll get higher up on you, and it's like you and a guy facing him, you do not have anyone in your gym that can do it this way or that does it this way because no one else does this flying armbar in this way. I can't imagine what it's like to try to figure out how you're going to face this guy because there's no analog.
Plus, he's doing all kinds of weird shit in front of you right before he does it.
He's like walking up. He was like walking hands down, like intimidated. It was, he's a neat guy to watch. I love watching his matches. I watched a lot of his highlights, but I still cannot exactly. I can see what he's doing, but it's one of those where
it's just
I don't know if anyone's ever going to be able to replicate the way he can do that.
And I think he's just been doing it for such a long time. He knows every response that you're going to give him.
Yep. But he does it here, and I love to see it.
In Nogi, he can't really pull it off as well.
He needs the grip on the lapel to do it, though.
He doesn't
the sleeve grip to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
He'll throw it though. He hits it on guys that aren't at the level. You see him hit it, but usually for the higher level guys, he needs the gi. But always exciting, always fun. If you see Peter Frank again. Brazilian guy with bleach blonde hair, looking like he's having a good time.
Yeah, and he's always like having a great time.
Yep, and I was like, ooh, Peter Frank's here.
Yeah,
we're gonna see someone defend a flying armbar or get a flying armbar. That's how it is. They're either gonna defend a flying armbar or they're gonna get flying armbar. That's how his matches go.
And when he does it from standing, normally he hangs on them. Like, it's not even like he does the one where you
reminds me of Jeff Glover back in the day.
Like he literally hangs all of his weight on you doing it, and it's like, are you going to fall over? Or are you going to defend this armbar?
Yep.
And he makes you make that decision.
Yep. Or are you going to slam him?
Yeah.
Or are you going to defend the armbar? And he's like, I don't care either way. I'm getting the arm.
He doesn't give a shit.
It's a really cool game. Again, I love talking about specialists on the show. We haven't got a chance to talk about Peter Frank in a while.
Yeah.
And so
he's definitely,
it's a great opportunity to talk about his game.
Yeah, he's a fun one to watch.
Next, we had Anderson Ferreira defeating Andy Murasaki via decision. This one was unfortunately slow. I think Anderson. This is a straight decision. I think Anderson does more on top. He really prevents Murasaki from ever being able to open up his game. And unfortunately, it was a pretty slow match. It was very tactical, but neither guy was really ever able to get much going of note. Yeah. That's why there are no advantages. They both played into each other's game and prevented the other person from being able to open up their own game. Any other pieces?
Nope.
We have Diogo Reis defeating Sam Nagai via decision. Might have been actually ads, I think is what does it.
Let's see. No.
Okay.
There's no ads.
Diogo was kind of in the driver's seat a portion of this match.
It's the very end sequence.
Yeah, that's what in my eyes and what the commentaries talk about. I actually watched this piece in English. Put a stamp on the match.
And I don't think
Diogo taking the back of Sam Nagai, didn't score for it.
But it's because Sam Nagai didn't let him get the last hook in. And so I think he would have gotten an advantage if he had more time. But he didn't have the time to get the advantage.
Time runs out.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they'll give you the advantage after, but they did not in this case. And there's a specific scoring reason why. It was the correct reason, but Diogo gets the decision here. Yeah. This is a fun match. I would love to see these guys actually go at it again.
His duck under was freaking sweet.
Dirty. It was just, it was a traditional wrestling duck under that he hits. He gets the guy to overcommit his weight down. He shoots behind. Diogo is so good at cutting that outside angle to get to the guy's back.
This is probably Sam Nagai's maybe second or third no-gi match. Because we saw him on another Brazilian card, and it was his first no-gi match. I remember.
Was it really?
Yeah. I don't think he's been doing a lot of no-gi. I think he just started doing no-gi
Was
recently.
That Francisco Lowe?
Could have
been.
Or
Nagai?
No, because it's not Francisco Lowe. He does both.
Okay.
Because I've watched him do both because he's fun as hell to watch.
Yeah, because he did Pooza against Taza. Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Again, this was fun. I was impressed with both guys. Then at the end, Sam Nagai proposes to his girlfriend. Yeah. They get engaged. It was super cute. I watched that piece in Portuguese. Didn't understand anything, but I got the gist of what was going on.
I got the gist of what was going on. That was what was important.
It was cool. It was a very cool moment. She seemed very excited. He seemed very emotionally excited too. Always love to see it when people like bring that aspect of their lives to these events. Congrats to both of them. Wish them both very well. Next match we had Azaki Bahens defeating Mateus Spirandelli via a really quick collar choke from the back. Puts him out. It was Bahens shooting behind, getting the back, and then throwing the choke in.
But
Spirandelli kind of defending.
He's kind of hard to
get off your back.
Well, he's kind of hard to do anything to.
Yeah.
He comes with a pace and he comes with a ability.
This match was, I'm going to put a pace and this is all Shiro. I want to say the match is like about 2 minutes. It is a very quick match. Not much more technique to talk about. I mean, Azaki is very good at taking the back. He shoots around from the guard and takes the back. And that's the match. We had Jansen Gomez versus Gustavo Batista. I was really curious about this match. This is a 2-point match for Jansen Gomez. He takes it over Batista. Basically, takes it with a modified single. Batista is standing forward. Jansen Gomez shoots for the far side leg. Batista defends. Jansen Gomez switches to the same side leg and then is able to run him down for a modified single leg, essentially. Kind of a single-double combo, but more of a single to the same side. Gets 2 points. There is some back and forth with the match. A lot of Batista playing guard, but that scoring sequence with Jansen's wrestling is the only scoring thing of the night or of the match, and he takes a really clean 2-0 victory over Batista.
Yep.
And that was BJJ Stars. Again, I hope that some of the tech gets taken care of. It was just it could have been done a little better to make the viewing experience for the English broadcast better.
It also kind of confused me that they have an Italian gladiator arena in the background of something that's
marketing Miranda.
I know, and I understand it was called Gladiators, but I kept on looking at it. I was like, is this
the other one was military one.
Yeah.
Like they do theming, which I appreciate.
I kind of like themes. Themes are fun.
But it makes it fun. I remember which event it was now because it's the gladiator event, the military event. Like it was good. I wish that they would have had. They would have given the U.S. broadcasters a little more resource to kind of like help the viewer experience because I think the pieces that I was able to listen to, they did have really good information about the athletes and it was worth it. But I really, from my viewing experience, I like hearing the crowd.
I do too.
And that's why I switched over to the Portuguese commentary, even though I don't speak Portuguese, which after this many years, I should probably get on that.
I say that every time I do an IBJJF and people are screaming in Portuguese that I need to learn it, and then I forget to learn
Miranda,
it.
we need to do Grappling Ryan Duolingo account. So
I have a Duolingo account. I just don't use it.
we gotta get on that. So also this weekend, we had EUG. We had Oliver Taza and Andy Varela. They made it through their sides of the bracket. They made it to the finals. Varela takes that, I think via decision. Very close match. Both guys had some really impressive matches early, but Varela does take that. Show's running a little long, so I don't want to dwell too much on that. We have Oliver Taza this next week at ADCC Trials, and I think that's where I want to commit most of our time here. We have the first ADCC Trials of the 2024 ADCC World Championships, the biggest event in grappling. It is biannual every 2 years. If you are not familiar and you have not been through an ADCC cycle with Grappling Rewind, here's how it goes. We cover every trials.
Yep.
There are 2 trials per region. There are 4 regions in the world. We have a North American trials that is U.S., Canada, Mexico, and some other North American countries, Caribbean countries. South American trials, everything in South America. 2 trials per region. For the men, 1 trial per region. For the women, the second trials of the region is the women's qualifier. There's a European trials that is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And there is an Oceanic trials that is mostly Japan and Australia. Those are the major players in those areas of the world.
Where does Russia fall in?
European trials.
Okay.
I
I feel like Russia is part. I feel like Kazakhstan, Russia, and all that.
forget.
No, they are. They're part of Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Yeah, but they're Eurasia. But I think for the trials, I think technically they are in the European trials. I'm trying to think. We've had some Russian athletes before win the European trials.
Yeah, they're not in Asia because Asia is generally the Oceanic countries.
Yes, like China and Japan and Korea. Those are all at the Oceanic trials.
I was thinking about the winners because the winners are normally like from Japan and Australia.
Yeah, that's why those are the powerhouse regions in those areas. So this is the first European trials. This is only a qualifier for the men's divisions, and unlike the Opens, there are 11 kilograms per weight class that we talked about earlier on the show.
Yeah.
They can weigh in the day before. We have a men's 66 kilogram, 77 kilogram, 88 kilogram, under 99 kilogram, and above 99 kilogram. For the women, we have I got to get the new weight classes. We have a
55, 60.
Under 55, under 65,
Over
and above 65 kilos. We can break out the weights in U.S. weights, pounds, but everyone calls it 60.
Yeah.
Everyone refers to it by their kilos.
I only know the little ones.
Yeah.
I only know what 66 is and 77 is, and that's it.
It's about 145 and about under 169.
It's 168 point something.
Yeah. But we're always going to refer to them as the kilogram weights, and the first trials is for men's. There is a female event that happens, and you become your region's champion for that year. So this will be the European champion for 2023. This is the European Championships.
Yeah.
When North American trials happens in October, that will be the North American Championships for the year. Those run once a year. Because ADCC, the World Championships, is on a 2-year cycle, each regional champion for both years wins a slot into the World Championships. For the women, because the women's weight classes only have 8 women, it is the second qualifier every other year. Your regional champion for the women makes it into the Worlds. So that is currently how trials go. We have a list of trials that is happening this next weekend. It is, again, the most stacked European trials we've ever seen. Miranda and I went through some of the lists beforehand. Miranda, how do you want to do this? Do you want to list through some of the names?
Just start 66. We have
66 big names. We have starting off with Daniel DeGroot. We have Jack Sear, former trials winner Sam McNally, former trials winner Ash Williams, all in that trials. We also have let's see who else we got. Rob Diggle as well, who represents B Team in Austin. Also trials are by your passport. So you have to have a passport that is from that region. So a lot of folks like Diggle, like Big Dan Manasuri, they have passports that are European passports and American passports because they're dual citizens.
Yeah, you can have dual citizenship.
Yep. So a lot of times those folks will compete in both. Guys like Majid Haig will compete in the U.S. trial, or we call them U.S. trials. They're technically North American trials. They're hosted in the U.S.
and South American.
Trials because he's Brazilian, so he will do both. So if you are able to do that, guys like Oliver Taza do the same thing. The European trials are typically less stacked historically than the U.S. American trials, but it's not really a commentary on the event. It's just a lot of those guys will be unable to win the U.S. trials, but will go over to Europe and win the European trials, but not always. Plenty of very talented Europeans beat those guys and win their slots as well. So,
but it's an extra chance.
Yeah, they get 4 shots at it. They get 2 shots a year as opposed to once a year. That more experience before the Opens paid dividends, and a lot of times they just had more trials experience than their competitors and were able to win for varying reasons. Those are the big names that I'm looking at when we're just whipping through them for 66. Again, with the great thing about trials is you're going to have someone you don't know put on a great run and potentially upset one of these front runners here.
Like Owen Livesley.
That one year.
We figured out who he was because of trials.
Like, who's this dude? He's really good.
Because he was throwing everybody around.
Yep. Men's under 77 kilograms. Some great names. We have returning returning ADCC veteran Mateusz Szynski, the Polish Mateusz as we call him.
The Polish
one
Mateusz.
of the best footlockers in the world, especially with that shotgun footlock. Go back and watch his match with Jed Hugh, who we talked about on Polaris. He breaks Jed's foot in 20 seconds or 1
really
second.
Fast. Something crazy.
Again, one of the best footlockers in the world with that. We have Oliver Taza in this bracket. We have Joseph Chen in this bracket as well. We have Ellis Younger in the tournament. Let's see. What other big names do we have here? By the way, we're going to, for instance, 66 kilos has 70 people in it. Yeah. 77 kilos right now has 88 people in it.
And it might change.
For the U.S. trials, by the way, 77 is capped at 256. So understand that we are going to miss some names. We have David Arce from New Wave.
Yeah, I was about to say
he's been looking really good. Go back and watch his match with Andy Varela at one of the Opens for ADCC. Very, very impressive grappler. I think he's a guy that will go far and surprise a lot of people. I think this event is going to put him on a lot of people's radar. Who else do we have?
That's it. We won.
Okay.
On the 88.
Men's 88 kilos, we have a division of 89 people. Big names that we have in this division. We have Tarek Hopstock in this division.
Shane Curtis is in this
division as well. We talked about him on Finishers a couple of weeks ago. You can watch that match at Finishers. We have Sergio Vilas is in this division. We have Christopher Rojak from B Team is in this division as well.
I didn't know he moved to B Team. He was in Chicago for a long time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. We have Santeri Lilius as well. We have Jed Hugh, who we just talked about, had that great match with Nicky Rod. J-Rod, not Nicky Rod. Yeah. God, that gets confusing sometimes. And those are the names on a quick cursory glance that I recognize there. In men's under 99 kilos, we have a division of 43. Big names we have returning trials winner Michael Luke Griffith is in this division. Freddie Vosgrove, who's had matches on Polaris, had a bunch of matches on Finishers, all across everywhere. We have Uros Sulik as well. Let's see. We have Petru Taponen, former trials winner. We have, let's see, who else? Those are the names offhand that I recognize really quickly. Men's over 99. We have Henki Jusila, former trials winner as well. We have Big Dan Manasuri. Again, he has a Romanian passport and a U.S. passport. New Wave Austin, former trials winner. He won the European trials last time. And then who else? Any other big names?
I thought there was somebody that was really big and strong.
Hinky Jusila.
Yeah, okay. That's
him. Former trials winner. So Hinky had a match against Gordon at last year's ADCC. It was Gordon's first round matchup at plus 99 kilos. Those names are recognized. For the women's divisions at under 55, again, this is a non-qualifying entry. So typically, a lot of your top women, you may or may not see them. A lot of times they do it for the experience, but sometimes they don't. I don't recognize a ton of names here.
Ashley
Bendel's in this one. Cara Duplessis is in this as well, and I'm struggling with some of the names here.
Yeah.
For women's under 65 kilos, that's a division of 14 is under 55. A division under 65 for the women, we have a division of 22, the biggest women's weight class of the trials here. Miranda, do you recognize any of the names here?
Looking.
I don't recognize a lot of European names that I'm going to struggle with. And then in women's above 65 kilos, we did have Hannah J. Griffith in here, Luke Griffith's sister.
Yeah.
She took an injury training with with New Wave.
Yeah.
This her last day there, so she is going to go and support her brother in that tournament, but she is not going to be competing. She's been winning opens, and I was really excited to see her on this stage, but hopefully she'll heal up. We'll see her for the next trials.
Yeah. I don't see anybody else. There's a bunch of like masters too.
Yeah, they have other events here as well.
Yeah, and other events going on at the same time.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to talk about and see how it flows.
I cannot
see what's happening.
wait to talk about. I love talking about trials. Should be 11 matches for us to talk, 10 matches for us to talk about. If we only talk about the finals, which we always do, if you see an interesting match, shoot it over to us at the Grappling Rewind Instagram, grappling_rewind, and we'll take a look at it. So I got nothing else. That's it.
That's
you got anything fun this week?
I don't think so. I don't know. I've been trying to deal with life.
Nice.
That's the easiest way to explain
I started this new job. It's awesome. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
As opposed to the last couple of years when it's been not so great. So change has been good for me.
Change is fun.
So I'm looking forward to it. We're talking about going on a trip. Like, want to go compete in Ireland? You're like, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be kind of fun.
But that was IBJJF.
And I thought it was ADCC.
No, I don't know.
So we pulled the ADCC. So we might look for some tournaments in your local area to go out and travel to have some fun. But I got nothing else. Going on.
I don't think.
All right.
I'm trying to think if I don't have anything.
We got trials next week. I'm amped for trials. Yeah. Always love it when it comes up. So as always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. See the mat. Whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.